Hi Yogi, and welcome to another slow flow class with me, Oceana. In this particular sequence, we'll be working on building lateral strength, so targeting the muscles in the side body that really support us in our more challenging balancing postures. The sequence is intended to be quite fun and creative, so I will be taking you from the front to the back of your mat and spin you back around by the end. For that reason, you might like to have your screen along the long edge of your mat before you begin. It's just a little bit easier to watch and follow along that way. And I would say probably 99% of us will want to have 2 yoga bricks at hand. If you don't have those at home, I will link a video here by magic, which will show you how to easily substitute them. The only reason you might not need them is if you can do a strict pistol squat from the floor to standing. And if I haven't scared you off by saying that, then we'll be starting in a standing position at the front of our yoga mat. So once you arrive in a standing position, just have a quick look down at your feet to check that they're exactly hip distance. And from there, allow the crown of your head to lengthen upwards. Let the soles of your feet ground into the floor. Either close the eyes completely if that's comfortable. Otherwise, find a focal point directly in front of you. See if you can let your peripheral vision widen so that you're sort of softening or blurring your eyes. And then gently bring left hand to the top of the chest. Bring the right hand to the small of the lower back. For the first few rounds of breath here, see if you can focus on breathing equally into and out of both hands. So for most of us, it'll feel a little bit easier to connect to the chest area in the front of the body. And it's a little bit harder to actually breathe into the back body, especially the lower back. But the lungs are 3-dimensional, so let's see if we can actually use all 3 dimensions of our breath. And for the next few rounds of breath, see if you can keep that going, but add a little bit more detail. So see if you can also think about breathing for the same length of time into both hands as you inhale and exhale. So seeing if you can feel that sort of expansion of the inhale equally in both hands for the same length of time, and also that softening of the exhale. Then give yourself just a few more rounds of breath here to find that movement and sort of fine-tune your attention. And then gently, when you're ready, we'll swap arms. So bring the right hand on top of the chest, left hand to the small of the lower back. Notice if that's changed your breath. So for some of us, we might now be on our slightly stiffer side, which can affect our breathing. But see if you can find that same quality here. And finally, let's add the final detail here by breathing for equal lengths of time as we inhale and exhale. So we're really cultivating what is usually referred to as samavriti, the breath of equilibrium, which is really said to be the breath that is healthiest for our overall well-being. Even though a longer exhale tends to have a more calming effect, sometimes if we're already tending towards more depressive states, we actually want to also emphasize the inhale equally to the exhale. Gently blink the eyes open if they're closed. Relax your hands down by your side. And for a few rounds here, we'll roll up and down through the spine to limber the body, preparing for more vigorous movement. So on an exhale, let your chin tuck in towards the chest, let your shoulders roll forward. Relax your hands onto your thighs as you slowly descend vertebra by vertebra towards the floor. On the bottom of the exhale, really allowing the crown of the head to hang towards the ground. And as you inhale with soft knees, rolling back up to standing, reversing those movements one after the other, until again your shoulders and head are the final thing to lift up. And doing that 2 more times as you exhale to come forward. Briefly pausing at the bottom before as you inhale. Again, see if you can really think through step by step, reversing those movements to come back up to standing. Final time here as you exhale, come down. Release into gravity. And as you inhale, without rushing to come up to standing, slowly making your way there. When you arrive, again, let your eyes settle on that focal point in front of you. We'll come into a little bit more fluid movement as we build a bit of heat to begin with. So as you inhale, take your arms out and overhead, lift the eyes towards your thumbs if there's no neck issues. On an exhale, soften the knees just a touch, swan dive forward, leading with the chest. Focus on keeping the spine long if you can before you fold all the way down. On an inhale, lengthen halfway, reach crown of the head forward, shoulders back. And exhale, fold back into the legs. Deep bend in the knees as you inhale, find chair pose, Utkatasana. Now reach your right hand towards the opposite hip, left hand towards the right hip. So you're sort of crossing the arms in front of you. And then as if you're taking off a really thick Christmas jumper, as you inhale, press into your feet to stand, lift the arms. Reach the fingertips towards the ceiling and then turn the palms away from each other to release the hands down. Again, inhale, lift the arms, look up towards your thumbs if you like. Soft knees as you exhale to fold forward and down. Lengthen the spine halfway as you inhale. Exhale, come back, Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Deep bend in the knees as you inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Find that invisible chair behind you. And this time cross the left arm on top of the right. Reach for opposite hips. Press into the feet as you lift the arms and come up to standing. Fingertips towards the sky. Turn your palms away from each other to release the hands down. Exhale. Inhale, float the hands up and overhead. Final time. Exhale, swan dive down. Lengthen halfway, Ardha Uttanasana, roll the shoulders back. And exhale, fold back in. Deep bend in the knees as you inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Slightly different here. Come onto the balls of your feet. If you can, lift your heels as high as you possibly could. And then press into your feet to rise up to standing. Hover just a moment on top of your tiptoes. Maybe lift the eyes towards the ceiling. I warn you, it's quite difficult. And then reverse that movement with control. Sitting bones move down and back, finding that tippy toe chair pose behind us. Hover halfway just for a brief moment. See if you can lift your heels a little bit higher. And then gradually bring your sitting bones all the way down to the heels. You can plant your hands on your bricks or the floor. Maybe for some of you, the hands can come in front of you to counterbalance as we slowly descend our way onto the sitting bones. The hands could be behind you for support, slowly making your big toes light. Maybe hands under the knees, shins parallel. Another option to float the arms or to straighten the legs, as long as you can keep that lifted sensation of the chest, rolling the shoulders back and still smiling at your big toes. Bring both hands to the outside of the left leg. On an exhale, slide your left hand back. Maybe your eyes can follow into twisted boat. Find a breath or two. And then slowly bring the hands back forward. Release your feet. Slip your right foot underneath the left leg. Plant the hands at the front. Take your left foot back. Tuck under the toes. Hands underneath your shoulders and step back, downward facing dog. first downward dog of the flow. So do feel free to have a little walk through the feet. Shimmy the hips. Ease into the pose. And then make sure that the feet are hip distance. Press down through index finger and thumb. Let your sitting bones lift up and back as you soften the shoulders away from the ears. Generously bend both of your knees, let the heels lift. Spin the heels over to the left side. See if you can step the ball of your right foot behind you and lift your right arm up. If that's worked, straighten the left leg. See if you can spin the chest and your hips towards the ceiling, finding Wild Thing. Gomukhasana. Slowly, when you're ready, bend both knees. Let your sitting bones descend. Slide your way back onto the yoga mat if you need to. Make sure that your right knee is bent in towards you, but step the foot a little bit towards the outside of the mat. Flex your left toes towards you. Feel free to keep the left knee bent or to straighten the leg. From here, lift up as you inhale, reach the fingertips upwards. As you exhale, start to hinge forward just from the hips, so don't let your spine round yet. Inhale to float up, lift up. Exhale to move center of your chest towards the front foot. And final time, find a little bit more length. Maybe here you find that you can fold a little bit further. Some of you might like to release the hands either side of the leg. Possibly walk your fingertips to the front of the foot and around the forehead towards the knee. Maybe crown of the head can gradually lengthen towards your front big toe, so you find length in the spine. For your final few moments here. On an inhale, walk your hands back in, come into an upright position. Now, to transition out of this, we are going to do a pistol squat, essentially, into Warrior 3. Now, pistol squat is fairly inaccessible to most people. It's quite a tricky one because it needs flexibility and a lot of strength. So what I suggest is we grab our bricks. You can place them on the highest, medium or lowest setting, either side of your hips. And what you want to do is press into your bricks so that you can shift your weight first forward into your right leg, which is the bent knee, and then slowly pressing through the right leg. See if you can straighten the left leg all the way back into Warrior 3. Don't worry if that didn't quite work out. We always have a second side. And from there you can bring the bricks underneath your shoulders for support in Warrior 3. Or you might find that you don't actually need them now, so you can always remove them either side of your mat for later. For some of you, if you would like to, you can float the arms either side of you. See if you can sort of test the balance and maybe even straighten the bottom leg. Find your breath. And then when you're ready, plant the hands back under the shoulders if they're not there already. Plant your left foot to the floor. Spin all 10 toes to the right. What is now your right, not your original one. And lift your right arm towards the ceiling. So you should find yourself in a supported side plank. Soften your lower elbow, really reach through your right fingertips towards the ceiling, and then press very actively into your right foot to lift the hips up towards the sky. Maybe take your eyes towards the top thumb. From here, some of you might like to see if you can make your right big toe a little bit lighter, possibly floating the knee towards the ceiling, maybe even reaching the big toe up and then really pressing the floor away from you so that you can find your full side plank, Vashisthasana. Just a moment to stay and breathe here. To come out reversing all of those steps one after the other. Once your right foot is safely back on the floor, spin your right hand underneath its own shoulder and see if you can shimmy your right big toe towards the opposite side of the mat. Bring the knee to the floor. Plant your left knee just behind it on the ground and see if you can spin your left toes towards the opposite side of the yoga mat. Walk the hands back until you come into a seated position, so we can find Gomukhasana, that very flatteringly named cow face pose in the English translation. Reach your fingertips away from the shoulders, thumbs pointing towards the ceiling. We'll try not to take that too much as a personal insult, shall we? Now from here, spin your right thumb down towards the ground. Bend that elbow and see if you can catch the bottom of your t-shirt behind you. Bend your left elbow and see if you can catch the top of the t-shirt. Some of you might very easily be able to catch your fingertips behind you. And the aim of the game here is really to lengthen the spine, to let your elbows move back in space. Maybe for some of you, reaching the chest forward, but again, it's not about bending from the spine, but rather about hinging from your hips. So focus on keeping the spine long and actually just moving the front of the body towards your thighs, while also still moving the elbows back, which I'm sort of saying as a reminder to all of us really, including myself. We'll find just a few moments to breathe here, to work into the pose if you like. Maybe close the eyes. On an inhale, come back upright, release the grip of the hands, plant the left hand to the outside of the left hip, lean across so that you can reach your right leg back. Bring your left shin bone parallel to the front of the mat. Some of you, similar to me, might like to slide a little bit back. And you want your right knee pointing directly out from the hip joint. Both toes flexed back. And then if you're staying in deer pose here, then plant the hands in front of the shin. Again, helpful to have your bricks to be a little bit higher. And if you want to go a bit further, then you can start to straighten your back leg. You don't have to go all the way, but some of you might like to tuck under the toes and spin your right knee and all 5 toes to the ground. Now, of course, some of you might like to fold forward in your pigeon pose, but we'll actually do an active version here. So without losing this flexion of the front foot, see if you can engage the muscles and draw your front knee towards the back knee. If you can hover there, great. If you can bring the hands into prayer position at the chest, even better. Find a few moments to breathe. I know it's a struggle. But really feel that engagement in the glutes, all of the muscles that support your hip joint really kicking in to hold you here. And then gently release the hands all the way to the ground. Tuck under your right toes at the back. You can walk the foot in just a touch. And from here, plant the hands at the front of the mat. Press into the hands and back foot to slowly lift up and draw your left knee in towards the chest. Press the floor away for tiger's curl. Lift the leg up and back into 3-legged dog as you inhale. And then bend the knee, let the foot dangle behind you for split dog. As I often say in my classes, split dog is the dog urinating against a lamppost. Much less glamorous. As you exhale, so as you inhale, come forward, shoulders on top of the wrists. Reach your left leg back into a 3-point plank. Feel free to lower the left leg if you prefer, or we move through a 3-point vinyasa, lowering halfway as we exhale through chaturanga. Inhaling into the back bend of our choice. And on the exhale, either via the knees or one straight line, making our way back to downward facing dog. We gather a few rounds of breath here, allowing our sitting bones to lengthen up and back. Reaching the crown of the head forward towards the space between our thumbs. Inner elbows spin towards the back of the mat. I have to remember where we are now. And you're pressing through index finger and thumb. When you're ready, step the big toes together at the back. Lift your right leg up and back, 3-legged dog on the second side. Exhale, draw the right knee forward into the chest, shoulders on top of the wrists. Step, shimmy, or lightly step the foot to the front. Back knee comes down as you inhale. Float the arms out and overhead into your low lunge Anjaneyasana. Bring your left hand to the front knee, right hand to the back hip. Feel free to stay in this much taller, very spacious version of the twist. If you're going further, back of the left hand starts to slide down your front knee. If you get past the elbow, you can bend the elbow, maybe bring the hands into prayer, and then press the top hand into the bottom hand to spin the chest open. If that's a lot of pressure on the wrist, feel free to make a fist with your bottom hand, and that's a little bit more forgiving. Either keeping the chin between the collarbones or lifting it towards the ceiling. Find a few moments to breathe here, actively pressing and moving away from your bottom thigh. And then tucking under your back toes, slowly with control, lifting the back knee and pressing left heel away from you. Again, find a moment to breathe here. Find your stability. Slowly bring your eyes towards your front big toe on the floor. Shift your body weight into the right leg to step the back foot in. So you're coming into twisted chair pose. Some of you might like to open that twist up by reaching your fingertips towards the ceiling and floor. And some of you might like to play with a little arm balance here. So we'll find side crow. Ideally, you want your left elbow to hook all the way around your right knee, or the outer thigh at least. And the right elbow can stay untucked, or if you need a bit of extra support, tuck it in towards your right hip. Now, the aim is to look as far forward as possible so that you travel forward and not down towards the ground. You'll appreciate that once you sort of understand that movement. And we slowly want to transition our body weight into the hands, but we'll take it step by step. So again, choose whether you're going to keep this elbow free or tuck it in. And then start by just bringing your weight towards the hands. Look forward, forward, forward. Maybe make your top foot light. Maybe see if you can make the bottom foot light as well. And then press the floor away. See if you can shift your body weight into the balls of the hands. Find just a few moments. And then bring the feet back to the floor. Walk the hands to the front of the mat. Lift the hips. Step the feet apart. Shoulder distance if you like. Allow yourself a little sway side to side. Maybe plant the hands underneath your feet with the palms facing up. And you can sort of shift your body weight forward, maybe even bending the knees so that you can really press down through the balls of the feet. And maybe shift your weight from side to side, massaging the wrists, giving them a little bit of a release. Slowly release the hands from underneath you. Step the feet to hip distance. Deep bend in the knees as you inhale. Find chair pose at the back of the mat. Again, see if you can come onto the balls of the feet. Lift your heels as high as you can. And then press into the balls of the feet to rise up to standing. Hovering there just for a brief moment. Lengthening through the fingertips. And then gently reversing so sitting bones move back in space. The knees bend. And you hover your way down. Pausing just halfway. Lift the heels a little bit higher if you can, and then let the sitting bones gradually come onto the heels. Again, possibly hands can be on bricks or the floor, maybe unsupported. You reach the arms forward so that you can bring the heels down and transition onto your sitting bones. Hands behind you for support. Definitely make your big toes light. Maybe hands underneath your knees so that you can float the shins parallel to the ground, or float the arms either side, lifting through the chest, possibly straightening the legs into full boat pose, Navasana. Smiling at your big toes. Not forgetting to breathe, still lifting through the spine. We take the hands in prayer position to the outside of the right leg, maybe reaching the left arm back, possibly even looking back into that twisted boat on the second side. When you're ready, come back to center with the hands, plant the feet down, slip your left foot underneath the right, plant the hands at the front as you spin your right foot behind you. And from here, actively pressing down into your hands, tuck under the right toes and step your way back into downward facing dog, facing the back of your mat. Bend both knees generously, step the ball of your left foot to the right side of your yoga mat, come onto the outer edge of your right foot, and then gently lift your left arm up. See if by pressing into the right leg a little bit more firmly, you can spin the chest and hips towards the ceiling into full Wild Thing, Gomukhasana, if my Sanskrit memory serves me right. Find just a few rounds of breath here. Soften your lower elbow. And to come out, slowly bend both knees, bring your sitting bones to the floor. Shimmy your way back onto your yoga mat if you need to. And again, you might like to have your bricks towards the front or middle of the mat for future use. Left knee is bent in towards the chest, separating the left foot a little bit towards the outer edge of the mat. Flex the right toes towards your face. Of course, feel free to keep the front leg bent or straighten. On an inhale, lift the arms. Find that length through the spine, and then possibly hinging just from the hips. See if you can come a little bit further forward, but you might stay upright. Inhale to lengthen up. Maybe as you exhale, test the waters to come a little bit further forward. The center of your collarbones aiming towards the front big toe. Final time here. Inhale to lift and lengthen. As you exhale to come forward, see where you end up. You might plant the hands either side of your front leg. Possibly folding in and then reaching the top of your head forward towards the front foot. Still hugging in your left knee towards the center line so that you're engaging the muscles in the leg. And finding your final few rounds of breath here, maybe softening down if you would like to. When you're ready, walk your hands back in towards yourself. Again, either you're going to pistol squat your way to Warrior 3. If you're using bricks like I am, choose whether you would like to use the highest, medium or lowest setting. It's up to you. We'll have the bricks either sides of the hips to begin with so that we can press into the left foot, shimmy our way forward, and then slowly pick up the right leg and float it back. At this point, the bricks could come underneath the shoulders for support in Warrior 3. Or you may not feel like you need them, in which case you can always remove them. And of course, if Warrior 3 feels easy as a balance today, you could lift one hand at a time to the sides of the hips, crown of the head and the foot moving in opposite directions. Maybe the bottom leg would like to straighten, only if it's easily happening and accessible. And then when you're ready, plant the hands back underneath the shoulders if they're not there already. Plant your right foot to the floor. Spin all 10 toes to the left edge of the mat. Come onto the outer edge of your back foot and then lift your left arm up into a supported side plank. Press down through your bottom hand, lift through the chest, reach through your fingers at the top. Press a little bit more firmly into your left leg to lift the hips. And then find the breath here. Some of you, again, might like to see if the left foot could become a little bit lighter. Maybe you're lifting the left knee up towards the ceiling, possibly reaching the big toe towards the sky for the final few rounds of breath here. Finding full Vashisthasana, side plank. And then again, reversing the movements to make your way out. Once your left foot is back on steady ground, we'll all bring the left hand underneath its own shoulder, facing the ground. Bring your left big toe towards the opposite edge of the mat and lower the knee. Bring the right knee down, see if you can spin the foot towards the opposite side of the mat. Walk the hands back until your sitting bones touch the ground and you find your way into cow face pose on the second side. Right leg is ideally on top. Reach your fingertips either side of the shoulders. Open the chest. Thumbs are pointing up. Spin your left thumb down. Bend that elbow. See if you can catch a piece of fabric at the bottom of your top. From there, bend your right elbow to catch a piece of fabric at the top. Maybe walk the fingertips towards one another. Just a reminder that the aim here is to lengthen the spine, to reach your elbows back, and possibly, if you're looking to fold forward, hinging from the hips, to gradually bring your chest towards the ground. Without dropping the elbows, I might add here, just for both of our sake. With your next inhale, come back into an upright position. Release the arms, right hand to the outside of the hip. Lean over to the right side. Reach your left leg back. You might want to shimmy forward onto your mat and find deer pose on the second side. So again, right shin is parallel to the front of the mat, right toes flexed, left knee pointing away from the hip, left toes are flexed. Possibly both hands in front of your right shin bone, lifting the chest forward. If you're going further, maybe starting to straighten the back leg. Some of you turning the knee and the toes to the floor without losing that flexion of the front foot. If that's happened, you could use bricks here. Some of you might be able to simply engage the muscles by drawing your front knee towards the back leg, lifting through the hips, and then possibly bringing the hands into prayer position in front of the chest. Finding that engagement in the glutes, the muscles that stabilize your hips, all around, engaging and activating. And then gently as you exhale, plant the hands at the front of the mat. Tuck under your left toes at the back, pressing into the hands. Draw the right knee into the chest. Press the floor away for tiger's curl. Inhale, lift the leg up and back. Exhale to let the foot dangle behind you. Point the knee towards the ceiling in split dog. Inhale, come forward, shoulders on top of the wrists. Float the right leg off the ground, possibly bring it to the floor. Maybe skip the vinyasas here. Otherwise, as you exhale, lower halfway chaturanga. Inhale to find the back bend of your choice. And exhale back to downward facing dog. Ardha Mukhasana. When you're ready, big toes touch. Left leg lifts up and back as you inhale into three-legged dog. Exhale, bring the left knee forward for tiger's curl, shoulders on top of the wrists. Step or shimmy that foot to the front. Back knee comes down as you inhale, find low lunge. Anjaneyasana. Bring the outside of your right hand to the outside of your front knee. Left hand can rest on the back hip. Again, you could stay in this version or slip your front hand a little bit further down. If you get past the elbow, bend the elbow, bring the hands into prayer position. Press down through the bottom hand. Lift and spin the chest open towards the left side. You can keep the eyes down towards the floor for balance or looking over your left shoulder towards the back. When you're ready, back toes tuck under. Lift the back knee, press the heel away. And if you aren't already, look down at your front big toe, shift your body weight forward, step the back foot to the front into twisted chair pose. Let the sitting bones descend. Maybe fanning the arms open, possibly having a little play with that side crow here. So you might just kneel on top of your heels. Plant the hands shoulder distance on the left side of your yoga mat. Ideally, you need to get your right elbow past your left knee here so that you can sort of support yourself. The left elbow could stay free if that's available, or you can tuck the elbow in towards the hip for support. And then slowly pressing the ground away. See if you can take your eyes as far forward and away from you as you can so that you're not looking down and then also going towards the floor. Maybe from there, shifting your weight into the hands. Maybe top foot becomes light. Maybe the bottom foot becomes light. Find a few moments of breath. Shift your body weight into the knuckle at the base of your index finger. When you're ready, plant the feet back to the floor. Walk the hands forward, straighten the legs, lift the hips. Separate your feet so they're about as wide as the mat or at least shoulder distance. Let the head hang low. Give yourself a moment to bring one forearm on top of the other. Holding onto the elbows as you sway from side to side a few times, bending one knee at a time. Gently, as you find stillness, swap the arm that's on top. Give your head a little nod yes, and a shake of the head no. Relax the tension in the neck and jaw. Soften the teeth away from each other. Soften the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Plant the hands underneath your shoulders. Step your left foot, right foot back, lower the knees. Find tabletop position. Now holding on to the front of your yoga mat on the outer corners, walk the knees just a touch back, and as you exhale, see if you can soften the center of your chest towards the ground. Really pressing actively through the hands as if you're trying to tear the mat into two pieces. Some of you might want to rest the forehead on the ground. For some of you, if it's accessible, you can release your chin forward onto the ground. And that way you're also stretching the bottom of the neck. Again, only if it's very easily accessible and you already have the chin on the ground and your chest is fairly relaxed onto the floor, you might tuck under the toes and slowly start to straighten the legs slowly, and we'll just stay there for a breath or two if you're going that far. Bending the knees to bring them back to the floor. Slowly coming onto your forearms just so that you can walk the knees back and come onto your belly. And we'll close here with a prone twist. So prone meaning we're on our belly. We'll start on the left side. So reach your left arm out, fingertips pointing away from the shoulder. Slowly rolling onto the left side of your body. Rest the left ear to the ground. Maybe your right your right knee can bend, and you can either put the foot behind you or in front of you for support, whichever is accessible. If the foot is behind you, see if you can gradually bring the whole foot to the floor. Maybe, for some of you, the left foot could join. And possibly from there, right hand could interlace behind. So you're getting a really deep, deep opening at the front of your left shoulder, wherever you are. And you're twisting the mid to upper spine. Aiming to get your sacrum, so that lowest part of your back body, towards the floor. So using each exhale to soften your right hip a little bit closer towards the ground behind you. And then gently release the hands if you've caught them. Plant your right hand in front of you so that you can gently unravel and roll onto the front of your body. And then simply swap sides, so left hand goes underneath the left shoulder, the right arm reaches out to the side. Again, fingertips pointing away from you. Slowly rolling onto the right side of the body. Relax the right side of the head down. Either left foot behind you or in front. Doesn't matter, just wherever you can actually get to. If you can get the whole of the left foot down, maybe slowly you can also bring your right foot down. And again, if that's worked, left hand could float back. See if you catch the opposite hand behind you. And then see if you can just find a version of the pose where you can stay for a few rounds of breath. Slowly softening down as you exhale, reaching that left hip towards the floor behind you. Bringing yourself a little bit deeper into that shoulder stretch, into that opening and twisting of the spine. Releasing the hands first if you caught that interlace. Left hand in front of you again. Roll onto the front of your body. Hands under the shoulders as you inhale. Come up to tabletop. Briefly separate your knees as wide as is comfortable. Relax your belly onto the thighs. Rest the forehead either on the floor or possibly bring the hands on top of each other and rest the head here. Let the elbows be wide. Maybe have a little rock side to side, letting the sitting bones descend towards your heels. When you're ready, slowly walk the hands in towards yourself, round through the spine as you come to a brief kneeling position. Slip the legs out from underneath you, find a comfortable seat. Palms touch in front of your chest, prayer position. Bow the forehead towards the fingertips and use this final moment to possibly plant your sankalpa, your good intention for the week, year, month, or just today. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, Yogi. And thank you so much for joining me in today's practice. Of course, if you enjoyed the class, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and share it with your friends if you would be so kind. Of course, if you have any questions, suggestions, feedback, pop those in the comment section down below for me and I'll get back to you. Of course, also, if you would like to find me in the meantime, I have left all of my social media links in the video description so that you can find me and connect with me elsewhere. Hopefully I will see you back on your yoga mat very soon, Yogi, and thank you again for joining me today. Bye.